Orange, France, Orange, Massachusetts. Well, that's an understandable mistake. But Orange, China? You see what can happen if the goods are addressed to the wrong place. It can be very costly, as we saw in the video. Now let's look at that process of buying and selling, that transactional process, and the commercial documents which are related to that. But first, do you know other terms for the word goods? Other ways of saying goods. There's products, merchandise, and also freight. Do you know that? Freight. F-R-E-I-G-H-T. Yeah, all four of them we use. Products, goods, merchandise, and freight. So let's look at that process now. And imagine that we are a buyer, a potential buyer. We would like to buy something. And so we contact a seller. Look at the screen, which will give you the list of the documents which we would need to do this transaction. The first one is the buyer makes an inquiry. Now, inquiry can be written with an E at the beginning or an I, an inquiry. So what's that? Well, that's to ask if goods are available, what the price of those goods are, what the conditions of delivery are, and also what the terms of payment are. So we as the buyer make an inquiry. Now, the potential seller sends back another document, which is called the offer or the quotation. In that document, the seller offers to sell us the required goods, the goods that we have ordered at their price and with their conditions. After that, we as the buyer decide if we want to go ahead. And if we do, then we make the order. That's the third document, the order. Now, in the order, we have all the full particulars and details of the goods that are to be supplied by the seller. So we have the inquiry, then the quotation, and now the order. After the goods are then packaged and they are prepared for transportation, usually we contact a shipping agent. Now, a shipping agent are the people who actually organize the transportation of merchandise. And they're also called freight forwarders. You see that word again? Freight. Freight forwarders or shipping agents. Now, that can be by sea, by land, or by air, depending on where the goods are going and what the goods are. Okay, so we decide to make the order. Now, the actual process involved at the beginning of payment starts with what we call a pro forma invoice. A pro forma invoice. Now, this is like an ordinary invoice, but in fact it's not the real one. It has all the details of the transaction, but it's not yet the real invoice. And that's often given to shipping agents who are doing the transportation. The most important document of payment is the invoice or the bill. Now, in the invoice, it's the document that describes the goods, the freight, the merchandise, the quality of that, the quantity, and the price. Also, the terms of payment and the delivery. And the invoice is sent to the buyer with the goods. It accompanies the goods. Then we, as the buyer, have to actually buy the goods, and to do that, payment takes place. Now, the safest way to pay for goods is still the letter of credit. And this is used extensively because it's the safest way. Because why? Because what it is, and it's an agreement between two banks, the banks of the buyer and the banks of the seller. And when the two banks agree, it's a much safer condition of payment. And as you heard in the video, you heard the words consignor and consignee. Well, the seller is the consigner and the consignee is the buyer. Okay? I hope that gives you some idea of what the whole selling and buying transaction is about, and also the main documents that you need in that process. Okay? Great. So, see you again in the next lesson. Bye.